Now we move to the connections on the back of the machine. Obviously the first thing we're going to need to do is add our power connections. So this would be our power connection for the punch. You'll also see a second power connection on the stacker for the APES unit. And then we have interconnect cable. You'll notice an interconnect cable here that hooks the ejector portion of the APES unit to the stacker portion. This way the two units can communicate together. Lastly, where you would normally plug in your foot pedal to your punch, there's a connection that goes from the back of the stacker back to your machine where you would normally attach your foot pedal to. You'll also notice on the back of the stacker there's a hardwired foot pedal right onto the stacker. That will take the place of the foot pedal that controls your punch. So now your automated paper ejector stacker controls the punch through this foot pedal and through the interconnecting power cords. On the right side of the ejector portion of the APES, you'll also see a paper stop receptacle. That's an optional feature that you can add to the unit where you're adding a slide switch. So rather than using a foot pedal, there's a micro switch where you would slide the paper against this special switch, and that would activate the punch and the automated paper ejector stacker. That would be an optional attachment that you can add to the unit. Okay, operating the unit. First thing we need to do is turn our power onto the ejector stacker. We also have a power switch that would be on our punch that also needs to be set up on the machine. Our next controls that we're going to see is you have controls here for either portrait or landscape. We have a control whether we're going to activate our foot pedal or if we're going to use our paper stop. We talked about the paper stop switch as an option on the unit. So you have the option to run one or the other. And lastly, if you don't want to use the APES for one reason or another, you can actually do the punching with the machine and not have the APES active. So you have an inactive button or an active button to operate the ejector stacker portion when it's hooked up to your punch. So this way, if you don't want to use your punch, you have that if you don't want to use the ejector stacker for some reason or another, you have that option to run the punch by itself without disconnecting the entire unit. When operating the APES unit on your 7000 or 7700, rather than justifying everything to a left-handed margin, this machine is going to operate a little bit differently, and you're going to justify everything to a right-sided margin. On the APES unit, you will have special designated markings on the machine that set up for standard paper sizes. You'll also notice on the one side of the punch an adjustment knob that you can turn to move your stops back and forth to adjust for those different paper sizes. So for instance, say you're setting up for an 11-inch binding edge. Here's your mark that's the mark on the machine that's attached to your adjustment, and here's your guide for the different types of punching patterns that you're doing. In our case, we're running a 3-to-1 punch. So all you're going to do is you're going to adjust your margin adjustment and line up your 11-inch paper mark with your mark that says 3-to-1 pitch. If we were doing some other kind of punch, such as 4-to-1 pitch, 2-to-1 pitch, we would move it to that setting. If we're doing a comb binding, we would move it all the way over to where it says comb binding and set your margin mark right there. Now we're ready to go. Simply take your lift of paper, drop it into your machine, hit your foot pedal, and the ejector stacker continues to operate. The advantage to having the APES system over a traditional, just standalone punch is that you'll enable the operator to produce about 33% more production time than if they were just operating their standard punch alone. That converts into a return on investment on adding an APES unit to a 7000 or 7700 in approximately 10 months' time. If you have one operator punching paper 40 hours a week, this machine will pay for itself in only 10 short months.